We just had a huge update to Helldivers that people are calling the worst update of all time. It is a balance patch for a bunch of weapons and stratagems that people are complaining about. They say that it ruins the game. There's many people who say that they're quitting and not coming back. So let's dig into it and talk about what changes are here, what it means for the game, and is it that big of a deal? Now, quick side note, this patch came out like 2 hours ago, so I'm making this video very fresh off of it coming out, so I don't have experience with every single one of these changes. Opinions might change as, people actually play with this and figure it out, but let's theory craft a little bit and talk about what changes were made and what's going to happen. So they bring up that the big point of this is balance changes to weapons, stratagems, and enemies, and changes to spread democracy mission. That's the big overview. In general balancing, we have armors with armor rating above 100 now also reduce damage on headshots, and victory poses will now only play for the extracted, no more stolen valor. That one's just funny. I like that one. But the armor rating above 100, so I only play in light armor, so I won't see that change. But I know that a lot of people had problems with being one shot by devastators, that one stray lucky shot that hits you in the head and instantly takes you out wasn't fun. It looks like they've agreed with that and given you a way to deal with that if you don't want to get randomly one shot headshot. So good change. Now let's get into the stuff that people are upset about. The primary, secondary, and support weapons. The CB9 exploding crossbow has now a slightly smaller explosion, increased stagger, decreased the number of maximum mags from 12 to 8, increased number of magazines received from resupply from 6 to 8, slight reduction in ergonomics, muzzle velocity increased. Overall, this feels like a nerf, a really bad nerf, honestly, in my opinion. No one was using the crossbow. Absolutely never saw the crossbow in game. I used it once, saw that it was mostly just worse in every way than using like the eruptor, so I put it back down. Having an increased muzzle velocity, maybe that might introduce some physics to it, but my understanding is that's not going to change the damage or the way the weapon works, which means that it's still going to just be a worse version than other guns. Why bother? The big one, the LAS-99 Quasar Cannon, also known as the Queso Cannon, increased recharge time by 5 seconds. Now note that you can still shoot it in the 3 seconds, still has the charge up time, like the spool up time of 3 seconds. That is unchanged. What is changed is instead of recharging in 8 seconds, it's now gonna take, 12, 13 seconds to recharge, and you'll still have that 3-second spool up. A lot of people are saying this destroys the gun, that it's basically pointless because it's just going to take so long to cool down because it doesn't one-shot things like Bile Titans or Hulk Bruisers or things like that all the time, that there's just going to be no point to this gun at all. I don't agree that that's going to do that, but I do agree that the change doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because now it's just basically unlimited ammo version of the recoilless rocket, but with a slower cooldown. Like, I just don't see why you would take it over the recoilless rocket now at this point. The BR-14 Adjudicator full auto is now the default fire mode, reduced recoil, increased maximum magazines from 6 to 8, increased number of magazines received from resupply from 6 to 8, and now placed amongst the assault rifles. So none of this addresses the big problem with the Adjudicator, which is that it does no damage. You can unload a full clip and full auto to like a basic robot and it may not even take it down. Like, having more mags and reducing the recoil doesn't fix the problem that the gun overall just doesn't do enough damage to justify it. We'll see if that reduced recoil like allows you to do headshots easier, and maybe it might be a little bit better, but I just don't see these changes theoretically doing enough to take this gun out of the garbage tier. The laser cannon, not the Quasar cannon, but the actual like long big laser that everyone calls Spartan laser, has slightly increased damage but slightly reduced damage versus large volume bodies, meaning chargers, Bile Titans, things like that. I personally don't like this change because I see the laser cannon as a versatile, can do everything kind of weapon. It's great at clearing out the chaff, but also gives you some damage on those other creatures since you're giving up a support slot for it. However, I know that the devs see it as basically an unlimited ammo machine gun. It's meant to take out the chaff and not supposed to really do much against the bigger enemies, and this change only confirms that they really want this gun to be used in a specific manner, and that is for chaff clearing. SG-8P Punisher Plasma decreased maximum mags from 12 to 8, increased the amount of magazines received from resupply from 6 to 8, increased projectile speed but will still keep a similar range, decreased damage fall off on the explosion, now placed in the energy weapons category. I don't know why they decreased the mags on this weapon. Almost no one was taking it because the downsides are so bad with this weapon. And now with the Eruptor out, like, why would you bother taking this instead of the Eruptor? However, now that they've had some nerfs to the Eruptor, which we will talk about a little bit later, if the damage fall off doesn't happen as much, this could be an interesting, good weapon now. I could see this one being used especially for scout striders or other kind of bulkier enemies that the Eruptor used to take care of that now it's not necessarily doing as well against. So, excuse me, time will tell, but I think that this is a good change. I think the Punisher Plasma might actually be no longer garbage tier and in the like viable tier. Like, it might be bringable, it might be worth bringing. The Arc 12 Blitzer increased shots per minute from 30 to 45. That's what, like a 50% increase in reload speed, and now placed in the energy weapons category. That is huge. I like the Arc Blitzer, but as everyone else has said, like that huge waste of time in between shots just mean that it was not usable in most cases. This seems like it'll take it out of the unusable tier and put it in the usable tier for a primary weapon more than just a stunning weapon. Time will tell, but I'm actually really excited for this change. I think this one will make the weapon usable and fun. Laz-16 Sickle decreased the amount of magazines from 6 down to 3. I think the Discord said this best, that the Laz Sickle was by far the best machine gun, and it already theoretically has infinite ammo, so decreasing the magazines just increases that a little bit of pain you feel if you happen to not be managing the gun properly. I think that is a good change and takes it down a little bit, but for most people who know how to manage the heat on the weapon, they're not going to feel this nerf at all, so why complain about it? Scythe increased damage from 300 to 350, decreased max number of mags from 6 down to 4. I never see anyone use the Scythe, especially now that we have the Sickle. I don't see this change changing that. I don't think the 50 damage will really make that big of a difference. Railgun increased armor penetration in both safe mode and unsafe mode. Stagger force slightly reduced. Ever since the big nerf that we saw hit the railgun originally, I basically don't see anyone bring the railgun like at all. So I'm wondering, with the Quasar Cannon getting the huge nerf and this slight buff to armor penetration, if this means we're going to see a return of the railgun. I think we're going to start seeing people move away from the Queso Cannon and move back to the railgun with these changes. Only time will tell, but I think that's a good thing that we'll have a little bit more variety in weapons and we'll see a return of the railgun. MG-101 Heavy Machine Gun, third-person crosshair enabled. This was just absolutely necessary. Without a crosshair, it was unusable except for in first-person view. It's still an awful weapon that I consider to be the, quote, dog water tier. I don't see this changing it. I don't see anyone ever bringing it. I don't think this is the change that it needs for it to be useful. And that's what I'm going to say probably for like the next 4 weapons here. Diligence Counter Sniper, damage increased from 120 to 140, ergonomics improved. No one's going to take it still. Diligence, the actual sniper rifle, damage increased from 112 to 125. 3 damage, that's not going to bring it out of dog water horrible tier. P19 Redeemer, slight increase in recoil. I just don't see that making that big of a difference. That seems like a minor tweak to say that they touched the weapon, but that doesn't seem like it's actually going to do anything. Peacemaker increased damage from 60 to 75. Again, those numbers are so small, I don't think it makes a difference. Here's the big one, though. Senator increased damage from 150 to 175. Cool. Speed loader added when reloading on an empty cylinder. Speeds up reload on empty considerably. This is going to make this weapon fully usable if it's as fast as people are predicting. Again, we haven't gone in game, we haven't gotten to see this yet. finally the Senator will get the love and respect that it deserves. I am so hyped for this change, even though, again, people are saying this is the worst patch, it's the end of the world. I'm happy that my Senator can finally be dusted off and come out swinging. Next up, we have the dagger increased from 150 to 200 damage. Here's the thing with the Senator getting that huge buff, I don't care. I don't see why. I don't see anyone bringing the dagger even with an increase in damage. Now that the Senator is fully viable, who would? Why would? No, bring the Senator. Liberator damage increased from 55 to 60. Liberator concussive damage increased from 55 to 65. Dominator damage decreased from 300 to 275. Just minor damage changes. I really don't see that changing the tier of these weapons. I don't see any of these guns being taken any more or any less because of that. People will be like, huh, that's neat. I killed it in 12 shots instead of 15. Like, I just don't see that making a big enough difference that anyone's going to care. Guard Dog Rover decreased damage by 30%, but Guard Dog slight increase in damage and burning damage reduced by 15. I'm not a big fan of the Rovers, the Guard Dogs. As you know, I say that they are a crutch and people shouldn't rely on them. It encourages people to play poorly, so I don't want people taking these anyways. It's good to see them trying to give you reason to take the other Guard Dog over the Rover. However, I don't like these changes just because I don't like the Rovers, but that's a personal thing. So if you like the Guard Dog, now the Guard Dog gets a little bit more damage, a little bit less burning, and the Guard Dog Rover is going to do significantly less damage, and I think people are going to see a lot of growing pain with that, because as I said, they have used it as a crutch. They have relied on it for too long, and now that it's going to be much less reliable, that's going to be a problem. Stratagems. Machine Gun Sentry increased health to match other sentries. That just makes sense. Tesla Tower increased health by 33%. I personally love the Tesla Tower. I only hope that with this change to health that it's still easy for us to destroy, because when people place it poorly, it can wreck an entire map, so I hope we can still destroy it easily, but I like more health on my stratagems. I'm really excited to see this already, the RL-77 Airburst Rocket Launcher. Airburst Rocket Launcher will no longer detonate when shot near stratagems and other helldivers and reduce the proximity radius. Hopefully this means that it will not be a team-killing machine and it will actually be usable. Only time will tell. I still think that once it's usable, people will still immediately put it away. The whole point of having a support weapon for 99% of people is to deal with heavies, armors, and large enemies. So being able to take out like little swarms of things with the airburst, I don't know. However, there were people talking about the airburst being really great and could take down tanks and things with a good shot. So now that we can actually use it, we will have to actually do a rating on it and see where it goes. Again, now that it's actually usable. Some enemy changes here. We got balancing adjustments have been made too. Bile Spewer and Nursing Spewer move speed slightly reduced. Hulk's force required to stagger them is slightly increased. Hulk's Scorcher direct flamethrower damage is reduced by 20%. Devastator fire rate slightly increased, only the standard Devastator. Gunship Sideways moves slightly increased. Scout Strider Riders now less vulnerable to explosions. I don't like that, but they were getting one shot by eruptors, so I know why they changed that. Fog Generators health and armor increased, and gunship spawners now have a much lower cap on how many gunships that they can have active at the same time. People were having glitches and problems where they would have like 10, 20 gunships in the air, and it just made it impossible to deal with. Gunships by far are one of the hardest things right now on the game because people do not coordinate and take them down like they should, which causes them to spawn, which causes problems. So I'm glad that we have a little bit of relief as far as that goes. Here's a big one a lot of people are upset about: balancing adjustment to patrol spawning. Patrol spawning has been increased when there are fewer than 4 players. The fewer the players, the bigger the change. For 4-player missions, there will be no change compared to before. The biggest noticeable change will be for solo players at higher difficulties. Basically, they're saying that people have been soloing hell dives too easily, and thus they are increasing the spawn rates significantly to make it harder to just stealth around and quickly get in and out and destroy those missions. As you know, I've done solo hell dives that they're pretty easy to do, so I welcome the challenge, but a lot of people feel like this has killed the game and forcing them to play multiplayer, and so they are again calling this a dead game because they don't want to play with other people. Gameplay changes. Made minor level generation improvements to how we distribute locations throughout the mission map. This should improve variation in distance between objectives, and objectives will likely not spawn as far away from each other as before. Added settings in the option menu gameplay section to disable automatic climbing and vaulting while sprinting so you don't automatically jump on top of the ammo container. The Spread Democracy mission, otherwise known as Raise the Flag, can now be enjoyed on higher difficulties for maximum freedom spreading. I am so hyped for that. This was actually a mission I never got to do because I ranked out of the low-level missions so fast. I didn't even know this mission existed. So being able to enjoy it on higher difficulties is going to be so much fun. When readying up, Helldivers now salute to ensure maximum democratic readiness. Added ambiance to the Tremor planetary hazard to underline the severity so Helldivers can react accordingly. And shots that ricochet from heavy armored enemies will now properly hit the Helldiver who fired them. Trigger discipline is highly recommended. That is huge. If that means your bullet automatically like heat sinks back to you, we're in some trouble now. I'm excited for these changes. I'm excited for the mission. I'm excited for more tremors, more planetary hazard, more things like that. So these are good changes. I'm really happy about these. Then there was just a bunch of crash fixes, so I'm going to rattle through them, but there's so many here. Crash fixes. Fixed crash that could occur when the host abandoned mission. Fixed crash that occurred when you tried to enter an exosuit. Fixed a crash after firing the rocket launcher. Fixed a crash after and during player mission results screen. Fixed a crash from players apart from one another rejoining an ongoing mission. Fixed superior packing methodology that was not working. Fixed blast absorption that was not working. Fixed an issue where players could not navigate to the search menu and the social menu. Fixed issues where items in equipped war bonds were not equipping. Fixed an exploit about Helldivers using grenades excessively, which means the unlimited grenades are over. Fixed an issue where kills from orbital barrage should not progress in direct fire exercise orders. Fixed issues about navigating the social menu. Fixed anti-material rifle facing away from the Helldiver after deploying it. Fixed some UI element issues. Fixed a bug where players could duplicate rounds. Fixed the anti-material rifle consuming an extra magazine after canceled reload. Same with the recoilless rifle. Fixed an issue where sickle and quasar cannon could not shoot through foliage. Several issues where the weapon thumbnails would disappear when scrolling through the armory. Fixed the issue where Tom Dun gunships sometimes cannot see the player. Incorrect collisions. Hell bombs not being deployed on certain missions. Certain issues result in Helldivers drowning in deep water upon landing. Issues where Hellpod space optimization made ammo go above capacity. Issue where stalkers became very visible in fog. Mines are now pingable. Receiving friend quests now gives a pop-up. Improved readability. Total experience is now visible in the career tab. Support for ultra-wide monitors. Woo! Very hyped for that. Keybinds bound to numpad will no longer reset upon restart. Fixed inconsistent audio. Playing rock, paper, scissors in front of the ship no longer causes players to fall into space. Weapons now cause proper trigger hit markers. Secondary weapons no longer remain in ballistic shield ADS. Open text chat is now rebindable. Explosive weapons such as the R36 Eruptor, the crossbow, grenade pistol no longer pulls player inward from the blast. Disabled squad invites from the tutorial. Fixed primary and secondary weapons overlapping. Fixed UI elements. Report and block player is now visible in the squad menu. Dead scavengers now stop screaming for help if they're calling in reinforcements. Fixed anti-air cannons showing up as stratagem scramblers in danger warning. And added reload stage for the spear reload after the missile has been discharged. That was a lot of bug fixes, and then their known bug fixes is there's a bunch more bugs. So they're aware of more bugs. Those are all great to read. It made me realize I forgot the R36 Eruptor also got a nerf. You decrease the maximum mags from 12 to 6, and the explosion drops off faster. This could potentially mean the death of the Eruptor as we know it. We will see. People are saying that it is worse than they're saying, which is always disheartening to see. But again, this video has been made right after these patch notes were launched, so we haven't gotten to play with these and find out. So, is this the death of the game? I definitely see why people are upset by this. They did their standard thing, which is nerfing the things that people like and trying to bring up the other stuff to bring it more usable. I was never a huge fan of the Quasar Cannon, and that is the biggest nerf here. As you can see from the video, probably that's been playing in the background, I love the spear. They promised us a spear fix in this patch. It is not mentioned here, but they are also known for having invisible patch notes. So I'm really hoping that the spear got fixed here. I am happy that some of the weapons now look usable, like the plasma, like the arc blitzer. Some of the nerfs and buffs just seem like they're not actually going to do anything at all. I think a lot of people are overreacting. I think it's the people who really love their meta, that they use the Eruptor, they use the Kazar Cannon, they use only the best of the best, are going to feel this. But like when we had the railgun nerf, we're going to see that people adapt to it, make the changes. It's going to take a couple days, but we're going to get used to it, and it'll become the new norm fast. I think we're going to see people get over most of these changes fairly quickly. The only one that I don't know that people are going to get over is that the solo play is now so much noticeably harder, people are reporting. It does make it tough. I know that they intended the game to be played with force, so I understand that. But I dislike when options are taken away. So I'm going to go do some solo hell dives, and I'll report back on whether or not it's truly as bad as people are saying, or whether or not it's still possible. It just needs some tweak to gameplay, tweak to how you run it, or skill issue, or other things like that. So we will see. I don't think this is the death of the game. I don't think it's all over as people are trying to say that it is. Excuse me. However, people do not like nerfs. When we saw the giant nerf to the railgun, people said the sky was falling. We still have hundreds of thousands of people playing the game, enjoying the game, and we found ways to cope with that. We will find ways to cope with this, so get out there and hell dive, test out the new stuff, and you'll find a new meta, new weapons that you like, and we will get over these changes as we have before. See you on the field, Helldiver. Have a blessed day.